So I wrote my thesis on the evaluation of music, trying to answer the question, how should music be judged, good or bad? And ultimately, what is the musically beautiful? So in my thesis, I argue that music should be evaluated and appreciated based on aesthetic interest in it as music. And I actually begin my paper by presenting what I believe is an incorrect evaluation of music in Plato's work, The Republic, where music is evaluated based on its supposed moral effects. So the backdrop for Plato's discussion of music is a dialogue between Socrates and Glaucon. And they analyze all aspects of music, but the part I think is most symbolic of Plato's whole argument is a discussion of musical harmonies, or in other words, musical scales. Socrates and Glaucon, they go through numerous scales, trying to determine whether they encourage virtue or vice in an individual, and they ban those from the Republic that they consider unvirtuous. Now, I think there are several issues with this evaluation of music, but the most fundamental one, and the one that is, I think, prevalent among other incorrect judgments of music, is that Plato, by evaluating music based on its effects, and in his case, specifically its moral influence, he treats music as a means to an end, which does not acknowledge music as an art or recognize its individuality. So I argue music should be judged based on its aesthetic quality as music. So the word aesthetic refers to the beauty of something and also the appreciation of that beauty. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologica suggests that beauty consists of proportion, splendor of form or brilliance, and integrity, and I actually think this largely coincides with the contemporary analysis of beauty in art, where things, in this kind of a generalization, things are valued for their proportion, their power, expressiveness, and also their historical significance. And I argue that of all the interests one can take in music, the aesthetic interest is paramount, since without its exercise, music as we know it would not exist. Music is usually listened to for enjoyment, and we are attracted to music because it is musically beautiful. Ordinarily, musical works invite and reward an aesthetic interest taken in it as music. And connecting this back to what we said about Plato, the defining characteristic of an aesthetic interest in something is it is an interest in something for itself. It is concerning oneself with its individuality. And the contemporary philosopher of music, Stephen Davies, in a paper he wrote called The Evaluation of Music, illustrates the difference between a means-ends interest in something and an interest in something for itself, or an aesthetic interest in something. And he does this with the aid of letter miracles. So consider object X, which is valued as a means to Y. This interest in X is characterized by an interest in whatever predetermined features are considered to bring about Y, and are also thought to be found in X. It's not actually an interest in X itself, it's an interest in X's Y-making features. Ultimately, this results in X being valued equally or in the same way as anything else that brings about Y, and the interest in X is not satisfied by X, but by the attaining of this other thing, Y. Now contrast this with object M, in which an aesthetic interest, which implies an interest in it for itself, is taken. The value of M lies within M itself, and M is not substitutable for some other object, since the identity of M is necessarily part of the criteria for the interest in M. M's valuable features are revealed in the experience of M, and evaluation of M takes the form of a description of those features. And only a change in one's experience or understanding of M can change one's appreciation of M. Other interests can diminish or supplant the interest in M, but the interest in M is only ultimately satisfied by the contemplation of M. And I conclude my thesis by explaining that to fully appreciate music aesthetically is largely dependent on an understanding of the musical work being contemplated. Music is not created in a void. There are certain traditions and conventions that influence how it is made and consequently how it should be appreciated. And to appreciate a piece aesthetic requires knowledge of what it is as itself, whether that's a symphony, a song, Indonesian gamelan music, whatever. And if we don't try to bring some sort of level of understanding to music, we limit our appreciation of music. The 20th century American composer Aaron Copland, he wrote a book called What to Listen For in Music, and in it he laments over the tendency he finds in people to compare all music to romanticism as if it was inherently superior to all other forms of music, and then their inability to appreciate contemporary forms of music because they're unwilling to understand it and to try to understand it differently. So I believe that in our day and age, the conceptions surrounding music have become especially confused, and if we want to restore a proper understanding of music, we need to rediscover its beauty as lying within its aesthetic quality, and we need to try to be more understanding of it as